It seems that CNN is about to get sued for $250 million by the infamous Covington Catholic High School Kid Nicholas Sandmann. Nicholas Sandmann is planning to sue CNN for $250 million in damages, his lawyer told in the interview with Mark Levine. As everybody remembers, Nick Sandmann was one of the many kids from Kentucky Covington High School that got relentlessly attacked for absolutely no reason, after there was a controversy involving these high school Trump supporters and an elderly Native American man who claimed that Sandmann, together with other children, were harassing him, because apparently these high school kids are racist and hate all Native Americans and other people of color. And of course the entire media establishment was attacking these high school kids, with absolutely no proof that they were racist towards the Native American man, who was also caught lying about being a Vietnam veteran, after it turned out that story was completely false. And all leftist media was attacking high school kids, with absolutely no evidence that they were racist. And the only reason why they were doing this was because they are Trump supporters. And if we know anything about the leftist media in the age of Trump, we know that they think all Trump supporters are racist. That's how we got to this situation, where everyone in the media was shamelessly attacking minors for being racist, but in reality they're just showing the hate they have for all Trump supporters. We all saw how crazy people in the media went in those days, saying that this was just another evidence that we now live in the time where hate crimes are on the rise. And almost the exact same thing happened with Jussie Smollett, when he was claiming that he was attacked by Trump supporters and the media went along with it, repeating the same old talking points about racist white Republicans. That's why they're doing the exact same thing every time there is an alleged hate crime involving white Trump supporters. And still, they can't understand why people call them fake news and why they're the enemy of the people. And that's why Nicholas Sandmann is suing CNN, Washington Post, and other leftist outlets that were shamelessly attacking him, trying to ruin his life and the lives of his friends for no reason at all. Everybody remembers when Kathy Griffin was publicly demanding for these high school kids to get doxxed, or when Risa Aslan was saying that Nicholas has the most punchable face he has ever seen. And they should get sued, without a doubt, because someone has to hold them accountable for the stuff they are saying. Now let's take a look at this clip from Jesse Waters to discuss this lawsuit against CNN.
The lawyer representing Covington High School student Nick Sandmann telling Mark Levine he plans to sue CNN for as much as $250 million. Remember, Sandmann had that controversial standoff with Native American activist Nathan Phillips just a few months ago?
They really went after Nicholas with the idea that he was part of a mob that was attacking the black Hebrew Israelites, yelling racist slurs at the black Hebrew Israelites. Totally false.
You're suing CNN Monday or Tuesday?
Yes.
May I ask for how much?
Well, I expect because of the way they went after Nicholas so viciously that the claim for his reputational damage will be higher than it was against the Washington Post.
Much more from that interview tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern on A Life, a Liberty, and Levin, right here on Fox News. Joining me now, syndicated columnist and author Michelle Malkin, and Fox News contributor Dan Bongino. So, Michelle, we'll begin with you. I believe these types of massive lawsuits, $250 million, is exactly what you need in order to chip away at fake news. Fake news has peaked. We got a big lawsuit against the Post, now one against CNN. I think it's downhill from here. How do you see it?
I see it exactly the same way, Jesse. We finally are getting accountability against the smear merchants who aren't just going after public figures anymore. I mean, I think every conservative public figure in political life expects this kind of smear mongering to go on. But this is a kid. This is a teenager. And the absurd idea that you're going to hear from these defense lawyers for these media corporations that somehow Nick Sandmann was an accidental public figure and that that's the standard by which he should be judged is an absolute joke. It's an outrage. And thank God for people like Lin Wood and the other lawyers on his team. We need more of this kind of accountability in order to chill and stop fake news. The other thing I want to talk about, too, is actual malice and reckless disregard for the truth. It happens every day on these official media blue-checked accounts on Twitter. They're never held accountable, certainly not by the Twitter Safety and Truth Council. And so it has to be litigated in courts of law as well as courts of public opinion.
Right, because Dan, the media loves to hold other people accountable, but whenever you try to hold them accountable, they don't like that very much. And I think what's going to happen here, and it's probably already happened at the Washington Post, you get the top editors, people that own the Post, they now tell every single person, have them tell everyone in the newsroom, stop being first on Twitter, stop and get it right. It's okay if you're second. Don't be first and wrong. And that's going to have an effect on people because people don't want to cost their company another $250 million for fake smears.
Yeah, Jesse, I call it the Bongino rule. It was originally 24 hours, but now it's 72 hours you have to wait now before retweeting or sending out any story that has any kind of anti-Trump bias, because it's likely you're going to get egg on your face and be made to look like a complete imbecile, especially if it's a story from the Washington Post or the New York Times. I mean, the stories are endless. The Covington kids, the Nikki Haley Drape story, the entire Russian collusion hoax. It never ends.
Right.
But one more thing on this, Jesse. Isn't this ironic, right? And a hat tip to Kellyanne Conway, who just tweeted this out. It's a great point. Nicholas Sandmann's a teenage kid who literally, not figuratively, said nothing. And the media, a powerful media conglomerate of leftist maniacs, tried to ruin his life. And yet 37-year-old Ilhan Omar, a grown adult woman who just got elected to Congress, repeatedly, openly says the craziest anti-Semitic things. And yet the Washington Post runs interference for her every single day. If that doesn't show you what trash the media is, I don't know what does.
Well, you're wrong about one thing. He didn't do nothing. He smirked. Dan, remember that smirk? That was a vile, vicious, provocative smirk. Thou shalt not smirk. I'm also very curious about more of the Dan Bongino rules. We've heard one. You should write a book about rules from Bongino. Now, Michelle, I wanted to get to you on this because Dan actually perfectly segued into it. If you have the mainstream media constantly leading the Democratic Party over a cliff, on things like Smollett, on things like Covington, where now presidential candidates are piling on because they see fake news that hasn't been fact-checked and it's done by malice. They're now in trouble because they now have perpetuated fake news. They lose credibility, and they just look like they have terrible instincts when if they want to be commander-in-chief and they can't get something as simple as Covington right or Smollett right when all the facts are so clear, how are they going to do in a time of war?
Yeah, well, the SJW hijacked liberal media has no credibility left to lose. And many, many years ago, I observed of the left, and that includes the leftists in the Beltway press swamp, that liberals see racism where it doesn't exist. They manufacture it where they can't find it, and they ignore it within their own ranks. And I mean, that has been the leitmotif, right? That has been the theme that has run through every day since President Trump took office. And of course, during the campaign as well. Covington, they saw racism where it doesn't exist. Jussie Smollett, they made it up where they couldn't find it, ignoring it within their own ranks. That's Ilhan Omar. That's Rashida Tlaib. You know, that's the entire resistance caucus of the Democrat Party. And as I have said often again, the fringe has become the mainstream in the Democrat Party. Nancy Pelosi has completely lost control of that party. And what does that bode for 2020 and the current Democrat field of candidates there? I mean, they can't get any more left than they already are. They're going to fall off the cliff.